You've seen part 1, this is part 2, and if you haven't seen part 1, go back and watch part 1 because this is the Guitar Nerds Top 10 Most Iconic Telecasters of All Time, part 2. Let's talk about the instrument of the father of electric blues, a man so important to both blues and rock that one of the biggest rock bands in the world named themselves after one of his tracks. In at number 5, Muddy Waters' The Hoss Telecaster Hybrid. Until recently, this guitar would be the first seen by visitors upon entering the Hall of Fame, held in the giant hands of a huge Muddy Waters war exhibit. Between 1957 and 58, McKinley Morganfield bought himself a brand new Fender Telecaster, originally white and with a maple neck. It wasn't until 1961 that Muddy Waters decided to switch the neck out for a Rosewood board 61 Tele neck that was slightly wider and a bit more in line with his more Gibson-esque upbringing. It was later in that same year that he commissioned the guitar to be repainted in a very gorgeous candy apple red. At the same time, he changed the control knobs for black witch hat knobs off of a Fender amplifier and switched the bridge out for a brass 6 saddle bridge and even added an extra screw to keep that flimsy white 50s scratch plate on. Morganfield named the guitar the Hoss, and it would be his main workhorse guitar from then until his death in 1983. Seen in countless live performances throughout Muddy Waters' career, the guitar was also played on Father and Sons, the 1969 Chess Records release that would go on to be Muddy Waters' most mainstream success. But the performance that stands out as being the most iconic has to be when the Rolling Stones popped in to jam with Muddy Waters when he was playing the Buddy Guy Checkerboard Lounge in 1981. There is probably no instrument more responsible for stoking the flames of 70s punk rock than this. At number 4, Joe Strummer's car primer finish beat up old 66 Tele. That one guitar was used by Strummer throughout his entire time with The Clash and through all his solo career and bands that followed. As with many of the guitars from this list, Strummer picked up his 66 Tele for £120 second-hand in 1975, just before The Clash formed as a band. Originally a dashing sunburst finish, Strummer gave the guitar its now legendary punk rock refin down at his local car garage, where he resprayed the entire guitar, scratch plate and all, with a grey primer and then a black overcoat. The car paint quickly corroded and wore away, revealing big chunks of grey primer which make this instrument so instantly recognisable thanks to the thrashing that it took over the next few years, especially around the pickguard where virtually all the paint was worn away, revealing the previously white plate. Strummer covered the guitar in the now iconic stickers, things like Ignore Alien Orders, a reference to Woody Guthrie's This Machine Kills Fascists slogan. There was also a large Trash City sticker, as well as a host of others. The distressed, heavy relic, sticker-coated look perfectly reflected the band's aesthetic, and was one of the first guitars in history to take on a stylistic nature that would go on to define an entire genre. A guitar that has lived twice, once glamorously mirror-coated and once in the psychedelic scales of a dragon. At number 3, Jimmy Page's Dragon Telecaster. It's an instrument that defined rock and roll, and I know Jimmy Page is more known for his Les Pauls or his double neck SGs, or maybe even his Danelectro DC-59 that he used to use for Kashmir. But it all started somewhere, and from the Yardbirds to early Led Zeppelin, Page was rocking his wicked 59 Tele. Iconically used at the Gladsaxe Teen Club in Denmark in 1969 for the Led Zeppelin live sessions, the Dragon Telecaster is an absolute slice of cool. Originally received as a gift from Jeff Beck, Page would by mid-1967 strip the guitar down to its bare ash. And thanks to his art school training, he would repaint it by hand with the reds and greens of a swirling psychedelic dragon. He even had the pickguard replaced with a foil perspex extended guard that would cover more of the body and increase the trippy nature of the instrument. Sadly lost to time after the guitar was badly repainted by a friend, Fender have recently reissued all three incarnations of the guitar in its original state, in its Yardbirds mirrored state, and in its Led Zeppelin Dragon state, all courtesy of Fender master builder Paul Waller. Used in countless live performances, sessions, and records, as well as giving Jimmy Page the instrument that defined Led Zeppelin. There aren't many Telecasters more iconic than Jimmy Page's Dragon Tele. Fender's very own master builder Paul Waller defined this guitar as possibly the most iconic Telecaster Fender have ever made. In at number 2, the George Harrison prototype Rosewood Telecaster. Iconically used in the Beatles' Let It Be movie, most notably in the final scene on the rooftop of Apple Records where the Beatles performed their last ever live performance. The Rosewood Telecaster instantly became the stuff of legends from 1967 until now. Fender have even made several recreations of the guitar over the last few years. There was a standard model, a custom shop model, and even a Paul Waller master-built model, painstakingly accurate to George's original prototype and limited to only 100 pieces. Made originally as showpieces, Fender produced an all-Rosewood Telecaster and an all-Rosewood Stratocaster, the idea being to extend them into the standard line of guitars. To help promote their new direction, Fender gave Harrison the new prototype. They actually tried to give it to number 9 in this list, James Burton, but he didn't like it. The Rosewood Stratocaster was intended for Jimi Hendrix but was never delivered and since has gone missing and is now lost to time. Fender got the guitar to Harrison just in time for the Let It Be sessions that would go on to be a defining moment not only for the Beatles but for the legacy of the Telecaster. He also used the guitar for the Abbey Road recording sessions before giving the guitar to Delaney Bramlett from Delaney and Bonnie in 1969. Delaney later sold the guitar back to the Harrison estate for a cool $500,000. I guess you've worked out what this one's going to be. Appearing on the front cover of his records, Wrecking Ball, and of course, most notably, Born to Run. At number 1 and topping this list of top 10 most iconic Telecasters of all time, the Bruce Springsteen 1954-ish Esquire. Purchased in 1972 for $180 from a guitar shop in New Jersey owned by Phil Petillo, the guitar had already lived a long and heavily modified life. Originally owned by a recording studio in New York City throughout the 60s, the studio had modified the guitar to be the ultimate studio tool, fitting 4 pickups and a second jack to record parallel guitar takes with different pickup configurations. It took Petillo some time to restore the guitar to a conventionally usable standard. For Springsteen, Petillo fitted the guitar with hot wound single coil pickups, a 6-saddle bridge, and his own patented Petillo triangular precision frets. Springsteen has used plenty of guitars throughout his career and even a number of different Telecasters, but there is always a place for his live set and album covers for his first Esquire. Unfortunately, recently the guitar was retired from live use after years and years of being slogged around in stadium after stadium. Bruce says that he still uses the original for all of his recordings, but iconic live performances like his Glastonbury headline set were unfortunately performed on a clone of the original guitar. But it's the soul of that early Esquire that lives on and earns its place as number 1 in this list of top 10 most iconic Telecasters of all time. Plus, he did actually bring the guitar out of retirement in 2009 for the Super Bowl halftime show. But ultimately, is there anything more iconic than the front cover of Born to Run. So there you have it, the Guitar Nerd's top 10 most iconic Telecasters of all time. John Five's Lava Lamp Custom Shop, James Burton's Paisley 63, Johnny Greenwood's 90s Tele Plus, Keith Richards' 5-string Micawber, Francis Rossi's home-painted green Tele, Muddy Waters' Hoss, Joe Strummer's primered Punk Machine, Jimmy Page's Dragon Tele, George Harrison's Rosewood prototype Telecaster, and Bruce Springsteen's wicked old beat-up Esquire. But what do you think? What did we miss? Let us know in the comments below. And if you've liked this video, then give us a like and subscribe to Guitar Nerds for more videos just like this every week.